Welcome to Prepare for Takeoff. I'm the creator and host, Terry L.Cyrus. We're the podcast dedicated to amplifying Black excellence. Every week, we sit down with a proven professional or a rising entrepreneur. This week, we have a major guest. Shout out to soror, writer, director, producer, actress extraordinaire. Give it up for Noree Victoria. Noree, what's going on?
Hey fam, I'm so happy to be here. I'm glad our schedules could align and we could get the synchronicity going. I am prepared for takeoff.
She's starting off with the big words already. She's starting off dropping gems like, don't get it twisted. And your girl is educated, working on that PhD in the place to be. Didn't think I knew what I know.
It slips out sometimes, you know?
Look, a little something. First off, let me give you all your flowers. I like to call myself a virtual florist. I like to give those flowers to those who have earned them and are well-deserved, and you are definitely in that company. You've been doing your thing for an extended period of time. I've been watching your journey, and I was watching your journey without even realizing there was a connection in the D9 between you and me. I was like, look at this, she out there doing her thing. I knew she was from back east, and then she made her way to the West Coast. And then all of a sudden, I seen you doing your thing with your sorors. I'm like, wait, let me find out she a Delta. You know what I'm saying?
You know?
I said,
and the broad swords, we had to make our way to each other eventually.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, look, ain't nothing but Coleman love all day, every day.
Coleman love, yes.
Let me give the viewers and listeners the opportunity to hear about your journey. I know you were born and raised in Baltimore, and a lot of times people make the associations with the TV shows they may have seen and other things, and people who are from there. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of unpack what your journey was like growing up in B-More.
Growing up in B-More was so rich and rife with so many different textures of experience, and they all made me who I am. I had fights, I had bullies, I had my friends running with my friends. We had tragedies that happened by the very nature of living in a big city, and we had triumphs. And so Baltimore is not for the faint of heart. If you can make it in Baltimore, you can make it anywhere. And if you can make it out, you want to reach back in and pull some people with you. I'm from Baltimore County, the outskirts of Baltimore, but my neighborhood was an amalgamate of Black and Jewish, and then they did a gentrification, a reverse gentrification actually experiment where they tore down housing projects, and so we were just all in there together, politically, culturally. It was quite an experience, and so I ended up, long story short, some people have heard this story, some people haven't. I had a group of girls that were kind of like bullies and got into a little tete-a-tete on a school bus one day, and I got kicked out of school. I got kicked out of school in middle school and sent to night school. So I went to school at night when my peers were coming from school. However, I was always very, very curious and in love with education, very respectful of my teachers, high respect for the classroom. And so that was just something that happened outside of the classroom that happened to get me out of the classroom. My night school teacher was a community college professor, and he brought me the work in middle school from his students. So by the time they let me back in the system, I was done the entire curriculum. So I went to college early. I was done high school at 16. I went to college early. I met my friends, the best friends. Shout out to UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And that began a journey, a continuation of a journey of me existing in all these different ecosystems. So we talked a little bit before we got on about what I'm doing and did I start in acting, and no. So absolutely not. I didn't. As a matter of fact, my mother kept this record of what do you want to be when you grow up from the time I was in kindergarten. And I always said an archaeologist, a writer, an author, and a scientist. And all of those things I carried with me, the arts and sciences. And I was in a play in 8th grade. I went out out of the curtains. I saw the audience, and you know that Homer Simpson meme where he backs back into the bushes?
Right.
That's exactly what I did. I saw those people and I was like, yeah, no, crowds, public, not. My parents were in the audience. I had 2 lines, 1 job, and I couldn't get them out. So my creativity really started with writing.
Okay.
writing. From the time I could hold a pencil, I was writing. I was looking out of my bedroom window and imagining what was beyond the woods, beyond the buildings, even beyond the stratosphere. And I just wrote it. And my teacher saw that in me. They sent me to accelerated writing programs. This was before I got expelled, accelerated art programs. During the summer, I would go to college and then come back to regular school. And acting came after I'd graduated, got a degree in biology, creative writing, and a minor in African studies. I went to Baltimore City Public Schools. I taught ninth grade biology. I left the school system, went back and got a master's degree in information technology. Then I went to work for Black and Decker as a financial analyst. And
Mm.
then the creativity was just pulling at me in that cubicle. I had to break out of those walls. And so I started looking for something beyond the structure, because at that time, I swear social media has been a gift in this way, where it's exposed young people to the possibilities beyond what is right in front of them. And
Hmm.
we have a lot of talent that came out of Baltimore. There's entertainment in my family. We have the Arena Players, the Lyric Opera House, but that doesn't mean that it makes its way to you in your classroom where you are. We have the famous Baltimore School of the Arts, where Jada Pinkett and Tupac came out of. But if you're not right there exposed to it, you don't know that that's an option. So I was checking my email one day and I looked in my spam folder, and there was a casting call for an independent film with the cast of The Wire. And I thought back to that eighth grade shrinking and behind the curtains. And I said,
Hmm.
Noree, one thing you have to do is always conquer your fears. Fears are natural. I know a lot of people say, be fearless or whatever. Fear exists to keep us alive, but the bravery is deciding to act like right after you're afraid, right? Deciding
Hmm.
to what to do. Don't stay frozen in it. So I went. I went with no acting experience, never having had a script in my hand, nothing, just knowing they want me to act in front of people. Do you know I booked that role? It
Mm.
was an exercise in bravery for me, an
Hmm.
expression, and I booked it, and the rest is history, Terry. I said, well, I asked for creativity, and here it is, so let me go and study it. I started taking classes. I did that film. And shout out to I said doctor. I call him doctor, but Lavelle Long, because he is like a doctor. So Lavelle Long is a brother out of DC. And he is the founder of Black DC Theater. And he puts on go-go productions, live go-go theatrical productions with music infused. And so he was the one who produced that very first film. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, because we all never want to see that in the light of day. It's so funny. Your first project, you're like, oh, no. But he's gone on to do major things. I'm so proud of him. And yeah, that's the beginning of that story. So it's interesting, because a lot of people meet me in the sphere of entertainment, but I still run in three distinct ecosystems, right? And it's important to, some people talk about not having a plan B because this is the only thing. I have a little bit of a different viewpoint of it. I believe you can step fully, and it's okay to step fully in all aspects of who you are. You don't have to leave
Hmm.
anyone behind.
Hmm.
So, that's not necessarily having a backup plan or fallback plan. It's just honoring all the different parts of you. And so I'm a perpetual student. I'm so curious about everything. I'm never going to leave that part of me behind, academia behind. I'm a tinkerer, an inventor. I'm working on developing an anti inflammatory protein powder with investors at the moment. That's another sphere that I'm in. I'm writing a movie in partnership with a studio right now. That's another one. And then there's in front of the camera, there's directing. And so what's interesting is that when I disappear from one ecosystem, some people might get concerned, like, where'd she go? I mean, my middle name is Side Mission, right? So I'm always here. It's me honoring all the different aspects and passions that I have, and knowing that I can make space if you're strategic about it. you can make space for those things. And I'm working on my PhD in psychology right now. Part of my journey when I lived in Atlanta was I wrote for an outlet called allhiphop.com.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would talk to certain artists, it became more of a, what's the story behind the story? What's the
Right.
narrative of you? What's the And so when I spoke to different people, they were less interested in the music and more interested in telling their story. This is how the group got together. This is why we broke up. This is why I'm acting
Mm-hmm.
the way I am. This is
Right.
where my trauma is. And being a child very young, loving to observe the adults and why they do what they do, psychology is a natural, it's just magnetic to me. It may look like, oh, whoa, she's doing that now, but it's always been there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so all of those things are happening simultaneously
Mm-hmm.
right now. And I'm having such a great time. I know our world is chock full of distractions that can be weighty and can feel heavy, and there's so much work to do out there, right? It's important to maintain an orbit of community and creativity and art and beauty, because if people are going to be on their mess, let them be on their mess. They're going to be on it regardless, right? If people are going to be on their BS out there, let them. We as a community have been so involved in boots on the ground and trying to shape and control certain narratives of us. And I think we're evolving into a time where it's okay, let's focus on us. Let's focus on us and how we feel about us and what we can do for us and what brings us joy, what illuminates us, because so much energy can be spent trying to convince whole systems, whole societies to see our worth. And fortunately, as you can see from my resume, I was a child that was given free range to do whatever I wanted to do that I was curious about. And so I carry that with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that that's contagious when I interact with people, when I work with people, when I'm on a set, when I'm directing. I ask, for instance, I had on the last film I did, I had a conversation with the sound operator, and I asked him, what do you want to do? And he's like, oh no, I love this. I'm like, no, but if you put this down, where would you run to? What would you run to do? He was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, one time I tried to be a musician, I tried, and I was like, you are a musician then. You're a musician, so honor that, right? You're like, honor those things. Don't let your mission, your purpose, your dreams get caught up in someone else's vehicle.
A lot of times what people will do, if you tell them what it is you want to do, then they'll try to project their insecurity onto you. And then also one of the things that people may do is they may try to typecast you based on what it is you find yourself doing presently. And sad, but unfortunately true, that happens overwhelmingly more so, it seems, in our community than other communities. So if that sister is working at the post office, but she says she also is a writer, the people in the community gonna say, no, girl, you work at the post office. Or if she's in the classroom, when she said, I'm a producer, they're going to try to marginalize that and say, no, you're a school teacher. To your point, honor all of the things. God gives us more than one gift. You have the gift of teaching, you have the gift of music, you have the gift of all of the different things. It's up to us to unpack all of those gifts. And you clearly are doing that.
Thank you. Yes, it's so, I think it's lovely. It's lovely to have layers of us, and we live in a snapshot culture, just by way of the way things work. It's just mechanistic in that way that you open up someone's social media or their email and you see their title and you see what they're doing right now, and you meet them where they are at present. And so
Right.
there's something that's innate, of course, about that. Of course, if I meet you doing podcasts, I'm like, oh, you're a host. You do those things, right? And so I think the dangers of that is that we take things without context, right? And that's the most dangerous part of social media, is that you look at a person right there, but you don't consider the context behind it. What was their journey that led up to that, and what other things are they up to when they're not on here living in my phone, right? And so, yeah, I think what is beautiful too is that we are moving in a place where intersections kind of organically show up, and there's synchronicity there. So music and fitness and tech and wellness and fashion and teaching and academics, like when I was growing up, you picked a major, you picked a career path, and you stayed at that job until you retired. That was
Hmm.
the American dream,
Right.
or the American stability. And we've seen some of those illusions start to fall away and peel away as the veils have been lifted politically and culturally. And we've seen people do really innovative things, like really innovative things, and CEOs that start a podcast about gardening and plants and all the things. And so I think for us to be healthy and self actualized, and here I go going into psycho speak, psyche speak,
We
in
here
order
for
for us to be
it. We here for it.
yeah, so in order for us to evolve and be fully realized, so that we cannot just live in the physical, but we can also have some appreciation for our spiritual experience, our soul existence. We can't ignore the things that bring us joy, that make us happy. We can't write them off as, oh, that frivolous little thing, that little hobby. Listen, I know I'm talking a lot, but it's a podcast. So I have a sister-in-law who just retired teaching, and she started quilting, self-taught, started just, and she's showing me these beautiful, beautiful quilts. Like, I'm blown away. And she's like, "Oh, girl, it's just and so, me being me, there's a brother on IG, a Harvard professor. He's an expert at linguistics, and he and I have been dialoguing because, again, I love academics. I love entertainers. I love academics just as much. It's like both of them. And so we started talking about the etymology, the origins of certain words, even the N words, stuff like that. And I just showed him, because he's from the Gully Geechee culture, her quilts. And I was like, she's a beginner, but I think her gifts need to be shared. And he was like, a beginner? What? And so he extended an invite for us to bring her quilts and meet the quilting women of the Gullah Geechee society, of that
Hmm.
culture down there. And so you never know what you're missing out on by hiding and shrinking the parts of yourself that you think the world aren't familiar with. And also, we make ourselves uncomfortable because we think other people will be uncomfortable with other versions of ourselves that they don't know. Let them be uncomfortable. It's okay. Let them be confused and uncomfortable about you. The most important thing is that you aren't. That's all that matters.
I want to kind of rewind this a little bit. So you're from Bmore, and then at some point you saw fit to leave Baltimore. So did you go to Atlanta first, then to LA, or talk to us about some of the places that you took up residence once you left Baltimore, and kind of what led to those decisions to move to those places in question?
That was such a fun time. It was just moving around is such a fun time of exploration. I encourage kids now, it doesn't matter if all you can afford is a bus ticket. Get on the bus and go see another place. I'm telling you. So after I answered that casting call and I did the movie, I was green to the business of this industry. I didn't really know how it worked. So Terry, I was taking flights and bus trips to stand in line to be an extra in Eddie Murphy movies. I didn't know. People were like, "You went all the way to New York to stand in line to be an extra for Norbit," and I was like, "Yeah." I mean, I just thought you were supposed to go where the action is, right? And so I had an audition. It's just an independent film, and I flew to Atlanta for it. And while I was there, I was sleeping on I love adventure. Look, some people may, and that's why I'm in LA. Some people may be like, "Oh, but the stability." Ah, I went down to Atlanta. I was sleeping on the couch of my ex's little brother at the time, and just this is how green I was. He was like, "I think there's a studio around here named Tyler Perry Studios. You want to go try and find it?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." We caught the subway and we were walking like we were in the whiz, like down a yellow brick road trying to find this studio and all this stuff. I'm telling you, when I first started out, I was just hitting the pavement, taking my resume into buildings. They were like, "Do you have an appointment?" I was like, "Do I need one?" So I think that bravery was just, ignorance is bliss sometimes when you don't know what obstacles are supposed to be in your way, because you just kind of go around them and you don't even look at them. So I went to Atlanta and I just never got back on the plane. I never went back home. I auditioned, I found an acting class that I liked, I started meeting friends, and I still had my condo. At that point, I'd moved to Silver Spring and my furniture was there, and I was just in Atlanta. I was like, well, this is the next chapter. And then I entered an acting competition when I was in Atlanta. I won 1,500 people. I won a partial scholarship to go to the New York Conservatory for Dramatic Arts to do their program. And so I found an apartment at that time. I sublet it, packed up a U-Haul, went to New York, did that program. I came back, I booked a project in the Philippines. I went to the Philippines, I spent some time there. Amazing experience. And then I went overseas to Oxford to do the Midsummer in Oxford British American Drama Academy program. My mother always, she would say, I'm surprised you're not off in India or Japan or something right now. You're just that type of child. And I was like, I'll hold my beer, wait for it. It's coming, right? And so and then I drove country. I came to LA in search of the Abbotts. So a lot of people, they may come here and like, oh, there's opportunity. I can get on, I can book this, I can book that. I wanted to see, what do people know here that I don't know? Where are the teachers? What do they have to teach me that I don't already know? So I came for the proximity to the teachers here. And then from there, I ended up volunteering at this organization, New Filmmakers LA. I became co-chair, their first Black female co-chair, and helped filmmakers have access to resources, from political resources to film funding and all kinds of things. So I just kind of made my way around this town, this country. In Atlanta, I was producing music videos and working on shorts. And then my friend Errol, he had a company called Supremacy Films. We would do projects. So anything that was new, I was game for it. I was a child that hated monotony. I'm an adult that hates monotony. And so anything that someone was like, hey, and I'm like, yes. And so
Let's go. Let's do it.
yeah,
I'm
let's
here
go,
for it.
right? Here's what I will say, Terry. There came a time where I had to admit that I was spread a little bit thin. And so around when the pandemic came, I don't even know if I should say this, but when they said we have to go inside and sit down and not do anything, I was so relieved. I was like, oh my gosh, I needed this rest. I was running around to so many events, and then with that comes all the people you meet and trying to support them in their journeys. And I just needed that. I needed that year and a half, but I snuck off to film school at that time. I couldn't sit
You
still.
still was doing something. Either I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna sit down in the classroom.
Listen, so I did their 8-week online filmmaking program, and right after we came out of the pandemic, I directed my first feature.
Hmm.
The ecosystem, the galaxy here is always in orbit. The thing that keeps me very full of joy and happy is that I choose the things and the people that I really want, though. So even when I'm spread thin, it's not like an agony behind it. It's okay, I love all these things now. Let's prioritize, right? And that is a privilege. That's a luxury. In my psychology program, we're learning a lot about, human behavior, but we do not have the ability of humans to play unless we feel safe, right? And unfortunately, for so many of us in our culture and our population, we don't feel safe. We don't feel safe financially. We don't feel safe politically. We don't feel safe in our social environments or wherever we grew up. And so we don't get an opportunity. It starts with the nervous system. The nervous system doesn't even get an opportunity to say, I want to play. I want to play. I want to see what's beyond this survival. And so it's so important to me when I work with people that even in that little bit of time that we're together, that they feel safe, that they feel seen. And this is where we can play and work it out. And I know we're adults playing, but still it's play, because the alternative is hardcore day to day survival. And let's be honest, it's a privilege to make a podcast. It's a privilege to write a script. It's a privilege to get in front of the camera. These are toys that we use to spread energy, good juju and education. And we're not, stuck in trying to be just safe. So you and I have a charge, right? To extend that energy to other people.
This episode of Prepare for Takeoff is brought to you in part by Riverside, the platform that I trust to record studio quality podcasts right from my laptop. With Riverside, I get crystal clear audio and 4K video. Plus, it's super easy to use. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, Riverside helps your podcast sound amazing. Try it out for yourself. Click the affiliate link in our show notes and start recording like a pro with Riverside. I commend you because the average person, they don't even have the capacity to do all of what you're doing, let alone be daring enough to do it. You're very humble with it. I'm doing this thing with a studio, and then you're working on your PhD. Then, I see you on red carpets, you're at film festivals. Unpack all of that a little further. Talk to us about some of your new projects. Talk to us about, if you can, whatever you can share about, what it is you're working on as far as a writer and some of the projects that have you on these red carpets.
The writing world is very NDA laden until
Right.
the project emerges. But what I will say is that it's been since I leaned back in, because I started writing very, very young. Since I've had the time and space to lean back into it, some exciting things that have happened. I wrote a film for RZA, the Wu-Tang Clan. It was amazing how that came about. I wrote a short and I put the breakdown on an IG story. And within 45 minutes, 2 different producers wrote me and gave me the name of an actor that was in Wu-Tang, the American Saga, that I watched the year before. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to work with these young men. And we were on the phone within 45 minutes of me putting the breakdown on IG story. And so I went to watch him do his thing on a set. He was filming a movie in Los Angeles, and RZA came to set. And the actor, RZA, of course, he swarmed as soon as he comes to set. Everybody, wants to meet RZA, Wu-Tang, and I kind of just hung in the background. And his name is Janelle Young, the actor that I was working with, and he pointed, was like, that one right there is and I really appreciate this, a phenomenal writer. And so I opened my mouth to tell RZA about the project that I wrote, and he said, think bigger. This is what I need. I need a this, a that, a this link, this many pages. I need you to read this book based on this. And I just pulled out my phone and started taking notes. And so it's a situation where a lot of the things that are happening now are just preparation meets the crossroads of opportunity and synchronicity, really. I'm so grateful for things like that. I'm writing another film with a partner. I can't say too much about that, but I'm really excited about that. A series that I started developing and wrote a pilot for was optioned. I recently just did some soul searching and acquired my IP back for that. And I'm very excited because, Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents, Octavia Butler, I've always fancied her writing. I've always loved novels. They were my escape when I was younger. And so I wanted to own the rights to all my material so I could turn it into other media. And just finished the film festival circuit for the film I directed, An Arrangement. That's the film I directed after I did the filmmaking program. I am developing an innovative product in the wellness space. I used to teach biology. I am still a scientist at heart. I'm very much into health and wellness and everything anti-inflammatory, anti-carcinogenic, pro-vitality. So I'm working with an investor in that space, and I'm really, really excited about what's going on there. And of course, there's the PhD work, and I have a paper due on Saturday. So I'm just juggling these things. And I couldn't do it without joy because I really love all of the things. None of these are an obligation or feel like I have to do this. I get to do this. My son graduated from UVA and he is a brilliant child. He went and worked for a startup tech company. And then he got through 5 rounds of interviews and landed at Microsoft, right? And so he's a software engineer, programming all day. I know this child is a musician. Okay. I know he grew up around live instruments. I know he loves people. He loves community. And when I would ask him how he was doing, there was a vibrancy that I was missing, right? I knew that there was something there. So he calls me one day and he's like, "Hey, mom, I had a talk like with my manager in HR, and I'm going to resign from Microsoft." And in the framework of how a lot of us grew up, it's like, a lot
What?
of people would
Hey,
be
good
like,
job.
other people in the framework of how we grew up would be like, in this economy with those benefits and that six-figure salary and da da
Mhm.
da 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 and all this stuff. And I was like, how do you feel? Are you happy? Are you, because listen, we've lost unexpectedly some greats recently. And what I do know is that life is so shortened, too short to live in a space where you are just unfulfilled. And he's far too young to feel that way. And so he resigned, and he said to me once, I learned how to follow my dreams by watching you. And that to
Mm.
me was the greatest testament. So this kid goes around, he's pounding the pavement. He started Sip and Listen, a quarterly radio show slash new artist introduction to the community. So he goes out and finds new artists, he breaks them and creates a local fan base for them, does a live interview with them, and then goes and DJs a party. He's head engineer now at this Afrobeats club downtown. We just had a meeting today at Soho Warehouse, and so he's doing gigs in art space. He's DJing fitness events. He's doing all the things. And this kid is glowing. He's shining. And so every generation should evolve and be better than the last, and so our generation was about betterment. How can we get to a place where we are financially secure, and how can we feel like we're taking care of ourselves and our loved ones. I want this generation to take it even further. How do you feel self actualized through the arts, through your spirit, through your soul, through your community, and not just where you live, but the community around what you like to do, right? So he has this following, and his name is Taji. I'm so proud of him. So all of my projects right now are unfolding along with his projects, and we get to work together. It's so beautiful to me that the full circle, the breaking of the traditions and norms that we grew up with in the best of ways is manifesting in my life right now, and through my child. I'm over the moon about all of it.
And he's the bruz.
And he's the buzz. You know it. Very active, bruh. This child is known from coast to coast.
I'm a proud member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. I've been in the frat 3+ decades. And one of the things that is definitely served as a GPS of sorts is the bruz. The bruz are operating in so many different places and spaces at a high level. White people, they may have privilege, and what we have is relationships. And those relationships are born out of the D9. If we're leaders on the yard, we have to be leaders in the community. We have to be leaders of industry. We have to be leaders in whatever it is we find ourselves doing. We have to be exceptional. And I'm sure your son, just from what you share with us on camera as well as off camera, to say that he's exceptional is an understatement. His mom is a real life superhero. Look, you could very well be a real action Marvel character with all these different disciplines that you have. Well, you're Wakanda forever.
So it's funny you use the word superhero, because that's how I refer to my dad. It is in the blood. I have to say it is in the blood, because we were the first Black family in Baltimore who had a soul food restaurant, an arcade, a grocery store, and a candy store in the same block in East Baltimore, deep, deep in the city. People came to my dad for jobs, for resources. One of the characters, actually, in something that I'm writing, is based on a character that my dad looked out for, and unfortunately, he burned up in a fire. He was homeless, trying to keep himself warm. But I grew up watching this ecosystem of entrepreneurship and generosity. And I knew by watching my dad give away so much and support people and catch them when they're falling financially and things of that nature, that when we get this, it's not just for ourselves. We have to give things away. As a matter of fact, I make a habit out of giving one thing away every day, and it isn't always material. sometimes it's a kind word, it's a hug, it's something. And so I feel like, you know how Muhammad Ali said that helping each other is the rent we pay on earth. I know I'm not getting his exact phrasing correct, but
Mhm.
you know the essence of that is that the karmic responsibility for us to continue to do what we do is that we have to share it. We have to share it. You know, I don't understand a world outside of the context of generosity. So it's interesting, like when I see some of the figures that are in charge exercising certain things, it's just like, that is counter to everything.
Right.
Everything that is in some of us. So, you know, we've got to do our own thing.
Wired the same way. And I swear I'm not reading the lines from your script. But the reality of it is I'm wired exactly the same way. And I will say shout out to people outside of our community that I've learned from, many of which that don't look like us, and many of which
Sure.
that they worship differently than us. But I've seen how intentional they were in pouring into one another. So I saw fit to say, you know what, if that works for that community, why can't it work for us? And I'm very intentional about pouring into people who look like you and I. Because I think a lot of times people become discouraged if they have, any kind of a ill-fated experience by way of trying to help somebody out of generosity or whatever. And if it doesn't go as planned, then sad but unfortunately true. A lot of people will say, well, look, I tried. But if that's who you are, it's not a matter of trying, it's a matter of doing. And
Yeah.
if it's in you, then you'll continue to do that work. And whether it's for me, having done HBCU outreach, having mentored people, because I realized that, to your point, all of this is a privilege. We could be doing a multitude of different things. I'm sure many people in our family, especially those who preceded our generation, they didn't have these privileges. They just had to survive. My dad's 90 years old, and he grew up in the Great Depression. And you ask him what was for breakfast? Beans. What was for lunch? Beans. What was for dinner? Beans. This is a man that started working at 12 years old. My daughter's 12 years old. I can't imagine being made to feel like she has to get a job. But he was working at 12 years old. But one of the things he prides himself on is staying busy. And he's 90 years old, and you're never going to call him and ask, what'd you do today? Nothing. He's always doing something. And I think it feeds his spirit. And I think for me, not only do I pride myself on staying busy, I pride myself on one of the things he shared with me, no matter what it is you do, never quit. And then I think my mom, what she poured into me is what I seen her doing all the time, is she was this compassionate person. She was like the Harriet Tubman, the Moses, if you will, of her family. Like, she always was figuring it out. She was always setting the standard. She was always willing to help those who may be in need. So to have my mom and dad have poured into me in such a manner, that's the man that you see today. And a lot of that, I see it on you as well. The things your father exposed you to at an early age. And then to have the freedom to think outside of the box. Because that's even a privilege. Because I know people that even in our generation, if you will, they may feel like there's things that they want to do, but they may not feel like they can do it based on their circumstances, based on their obligations and responsibilities. But I would even charge them to find a way to do some aspect of what it is you want to do. You may have to continue that post office job, but that don't mean that you can't write at night. That don't mean you can't take an acting class. That doesn't mean that you can't do beats, in your free time. You have to your point, you have to find a way to continue to pour into yourself and feed your spirit, because that's what's going to make us feel whole.
To that point, you mentioned something about people giving up on their own communities, or when they have a bad experience, or when they just feel like it's just too much. I will say that cynicism is a killer of the mission. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to approach everything with, this is, first of all, it has to be authentic to you. It has to be something that you resonate with, because inauthenticity is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. It's not sustainable in the arts and financially, in relationships. And so, yeah, you have to be a magnet and attracted and magnetized to the things that bring you joy. What I will also say about the freedom that I've had is that by watching my dad, and he also said to me that I only have to follow the rules if the rules are fair. Now, that did not exempt me from consequences of the decisions that I make. And what I learned from a very young age is that if this is the choice I make, I'm not afraid to make the choice. That's where a lot of people get stopped in their journey, even making the choice. I'll make the choice. And then not only that, I take the consequences of that choice and also the celebrations and the gains from that choice. I take it and I handle it and I accept it. I accept the mission. I took a very different approach to parenting than a lot of us do traditionally and culturally. I'll have to say, like, corporal punishment was not a part of my household. It's not a part of my mission with my son. And so I think a big part of what worked for just me and us is removing the fear behind making certain decisions, but being certain that there's an awareness of the consequences. It doesn't mean that every choice comes with this extreme chastisement or making someone feel like if you made an incorrect choice, man, you disappointed us. Man, you disappointed the family. Man, you disappointed the community. It's a very personal story to me. When I told my dad that my son was on the way, I was scared to death. I mean, I was so scared. And, it was in the context of a very loving situation, both families very family oriented, but it was my dad that I had to tell this to. And so
Mm-hmm.
I cried delivering the news, and he asked me what I was crying for. And I said, even in the context of having the freedom to make the choices I've made, I still looked at this as like, man, it's still a disappointment, right? And he looked at me and he was like, the quickest, easiest way from point A to point B is a straight line. You made a detour, but you'll be all right. You'll be all right. And then he told me to get in his car and we went to, it was Babies R Us at the time, and he bought everything for his room. And so I'm so grateful for my village affirming that my imperfections are welcome as well.
Mm-hmm.
The issue sometimes with, and it's a gift and a curse, Terry, Black excellence, is that we've been under so much pressure to make something out of less than nothing we were brought to this country, a lot of us with less than humanity, less than that, and that it's such a pressure and a weight to make something of ourselves that we don't allow ourselves room for exploration. And with exploration comes imperfection, and it's okay. It's okay. That's the only way we feel out our environment. Other cultures are allowed to fail up. And of course, systemically, like, it's built out that way. I
Mm-hmm.
want us to be able to do that sometimes too.
Right.
Okay, so this project didn't work out. Let's give you another shot with different resources and more support and see what that looks like. Okay, you didn't go from point A to point B, but with our support, not throwing you out on the street, not saying you disappointed us, not saying you made a decision outside of the realm of our morality, saying, okay, let's see what resources we have for you so that you can become Noree Victoria, actress, director, producer, PhD student. I could not have done that if our communities shamed us into believing that there is one way and one way only. I reject that.
Thinking about starting your own business? Make it real with Shopify, the all-in-one platform trusted by millions to sell online and in person. Whether it's merch, art, or digital goods, Shopify gives you the tools to build, grow, and succeed. And here's the best part. When you sign up using the affiliate link in our show notes, you're supporting Prepare for Takeoff and starting your business off right. Click the link and start your free trial today. I think you might also have a calling on you to be a minister because you're preaching today.
Listen, I need room to still make my mistakes, okay? Don't put me up in front. Listen, but thank you. Just even with what you do right here, right now, in this moment, for providing the space and the bandwidth for people like me to share our own perspectives, our own POVs, and along with how they align with yours, and just it's a greater evolution. It's like when two things happen to synchronize, they become another thing.
Right.
In psychology, it's called phenomenology. It's the experience of community and what that brings about as a result of the joining of mutual aligned forces. And this is needed. We need this.
As we close out, I wanted to give you the opportunity to leave us with 3 things that you feel will help our viewers and listeners prepare for takeoff.
Don't be afraid, as I said, to embrace all the nuances of you. Don't be self-limiting before you even start, right? I don't know if that's one or two. Allow yourself the room to make mistakes in the context of excellence and course adjust and course correct. We are completely and wholly human, and Black excellence does not mean perfection. And I know sometimes we have embraced this view of perfection just for survival. If we don't behave perfectly, our lives can be in danger. But I think it's time for us to move out of that space, and we see what other people are on. Let's create our own reality, our own community. And that brings me to number three: have your people, build your community. And I will say that community is just as much the boundaries that you have around who can't come as it is with who can come. You have to have so much discernment. You have to have people that augment your energy and your vibration and affirm your existence. And I am the type of person that community is not a right. It is not by default, meaning even if someone is in your family or someone that you grew up with or someone that you've known all your life, and they believe that they have the right, the privilege of access to you, and you know that does not serve your mission, your purpose, if your calling is on a higher vibration, cut that off.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that I must have cracked the code in some way. That boundaries, very boundaries, keeping the influences. And I'm not saying surround yourself by yes men. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you know, hopefully, with vibrationally, intuitively, with discernment, who means you no good. And when you take one step forward, what feels like a parachute on your back. And
Right.
that's what I'm talking about, not the people that will check you, because you need those people. I appreciate the people around me, and my dad, starting with my dad. Fun story before we close. I remember when I was about 10 or 12, 10, between 10 and 12, I was rushing outside to go play. And my dad said, you going to make your bed first, shorty? And I was like, it's made. And he looked in there and he said, you're going to have to start taking some pride in yourself. And that something in that like was like, like I went in there and I straightened out the sheets and everything, and it gave me a point of reflection of like how I do things, you know. And this is my dad, who I love and respect, and he checking me all along the way. So I want, this may be a fourth point: have friends that tell you to make your bed, make it better.
Mhm. Shout out to your dad. I mean, he definitely laid a phenomenal blueprint.
I'm named after him, Norman, Noree.
Oh, there you go. Look, he knew what he was doing. He said, she is going to be a female version of me, and she's going to walk in her purpose on purpose, and she's going to stand on business every day, all day, and twice on Sunday.
That part, yes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm so proud that you were able to grace us with your presence. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that we weren't able to get into. We only have an hour, but I want to also give people the opportunity to continue to find out more about who you are and the things you're doing. So, with that being said, what are some of the best ways to take a snapshot of your journey now moving forward on social media, website, anything you feel comfortable with sharing?
It's interesting because, and it's just a snapshot, but on IG, everywhere, Blue Sky, I'm Noree Victoria, just my name, no spaces. And just when you look into my world, just remember we are so layered. We are multifaceted, multidimensional, multi-orbited people. And so that's where I put a little bit of everything, some friends, a little bit of family. I kind of try to protect that as my temple. But yes, anything that's coming up that I can talk about, insights into how I live, my personality, the wellness space, all that is right there. I haven't ventured over to TikTok actively. I don't know why I've reserved my name, but this year I may start populating that space with a lot of cool projects that I'm working on.
Yeah, TikTok. I was one of the late adopters to it myself, but I'm on there. I'm pretty active because when I thought about it, I'm like, man, I didn't want to be the old dude at the club. I'm like, is this for me?
You're not. There's so many people on there, and I just man, I'm such an analog girl. I grew up in a world where we didn't have cell phones, and we went out and we played with our friends. We had toys, and we didn't have all the screen time. And so part of me still cherishes that world. Sometimes I can tune completely out of the digital, and I am so into my family, my friends, the things that's going on right now. So yeah, it's a snapshot, but just a snapshot.
Right. It's just a snapshot, and people need to understand and realize that what you see on IG isn't the complete entirety of that individual. That's just what they see fit to share, and that might be good, bad, or indifferent. They may not want to share certain aspects of who they are, and the same holds true for all of us, myself included. But a snapshot nonetheless. If you watch Noree Victoria's snapshot, then you're going to be like, okay, I want to find out more.
It'll
Like, this
be
is a
full
real
of joy.
it's full of joy, and
Yes.
Wakanda forever. The superhero lives on this
Yes.
page.
All of my curiosities, there's some educational things, all of, a little bit of everything.
Noree, thank you so much for spending so much time with us today on the podcast. Much continued success. I'm sure we'll be seeing more different things that you can share in the future. Just know that me and my team, all of us at Outspoken Media Group, will be cheering you, whether from the 50-yard line or from the box or somewhere in the bleachers. Just know that you have our full support here in New York, even though you're on the West Coast. And if you're ever in New York, you definitely got to plug in with us. And we'd love to figure out how we can collaborate, realizing that there's so many different things that you're doing and what we're doing. And I see that there's a lot of synergy there. Again, much continued success to you. And I couldn't be prouder. And shout out to Delta Sigma Theta. They just keep on delivering. They keep on delivering. For real, for real. Hey, it is what it is. And look, it wasn't me. I mean, here's the proof. Shout out to everybody in the team live, but it is what it is. She's a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta, and this is how she's showing up. Real life superhero. And shout out to your son and the things that he's doing. I always like to see the bros of today's generation to continue to do their thing, because I was that dude at one point in time. I was leading with a lot of a lot of enthusiasm, and that'll serve them well. Continue to plug in with the bros, plug in with everybody. Relationships are the key to success. And I've learned that, that, and I'm sure he understands that as well.
Yes, and much love to the Prepare for Takeoff family. I really appreciate you having me today. This has been a dynamic, energetic, joyful conversation, and much love. We will be seeing each other. All of us will be seeing each other out there in the world.
Also, I wanted to thank our viewers and listeners, whether you're watching us on YouTube or Spotify, or you're listening to us on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, or Pandora. As you know, every week we will continue to bring you proven professionals and rising entrepreneurs. And all of these conversations, just like this one, will help you prepare for takeoff. Noree, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.